you can take more than one of these claws, you're like a superhuman.
I actually ripped my fingernails off. I want to know, when is the point where the organization contacts us and presents us with the death contract of selling our soul to the devil for the success that we want?
And then we get to see
When
the
does
aliens.
Yeah, when does that part happen? Is that like a certain level of subscribers, or
Probably 20.
give her
20 subs.
Moss or Manos?
Dude, you know what movie I always want to rewatch and then I never fucking put it on?
What?
Austin Powers.
Yes.
Like, it always sounds good, but I'm never like, okay, yeah, let's do it. No, no, I just don't do it. But I sit there and think about it, like, occasionally enough to where it's now coming to my mind. I don't know.
You know how Jay and Silent Bob is like our movie?
Mm-hmm.
That Austin Powers is that same thing, but for my brother and my father.
Hmm.
Like, we used to watch Austin Powers all the time growing up.
I used to watch it a lot.
Yeah,
It's a great, great series of movies, really. Like,
they're hilarious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever
And
see Rat Race?
I did. Rat Race is
That was a
great
good
too.
one too.
Yeah, Mr. Bean's in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember. I think even in, I don't know if it was in one of our podcasts, but one of our conversations we were having, you even played off the whole coming out of cryo piss joke that they do. It's like,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Evacuation come. Hold on,
That
hold on.
scene.
Not sponsored. Hashtag.
I'm actually sponsored by Bang, so speak for yourself.
Like Bang with Ludwig.
Yeah, Bang Muay Thai. You know.
I keep
But no, that.
my nails low, so that my hammer-like fingertips just 5 points of damage. 10,
So
I
I
mean, really, but you can take more than one of these claws, you're like a superhuman, basically.
I I actually ripped my fingernails off to show how tough I am. Like, right before I get into a fight, I'll just like take out my pliers and
You just have like pliers on your belt at all times, just in case. Maybe a
yeah.
multi-tool. You're just that guy.
Who's gonna want to fight you after you rip off your fucking
Huh?
fingernail?
Huh?
Whoa.
You say Phillips head? You Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Check it out. Got my multi-tool here. Oh, nope,
Oh,
that's the toe clipper. There it is. Yep. Whew. Glasses fixed.
I want to be that guy now. Like,
And then
oh,
go back to eating your pasta.
you have a screw loose? Oh, let me. There's a lot in here. It's gonna take a while. Oh,
You
okay,
want to
there.
be that guy.
Yeah, yeah. That will be my thing, and I'll wear a shirt that has a multi-tool on it, so people will know I'm that guy.
They could just call you MT. Yeah.
MT, yeah. DJ MT.
That's Yeah, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
I was like,
multi.
wait. That would be that would be a name that would get me intrigued. I'd be like, wait, like DMT? What do you mean? What? What?
Yeah, and then you would see my icon and it'd be a multi-tool and be like, oh, like, dang, he's a DJ and he's multifaceted like a multi-tool, you know? I can pull it out whenever I want to.
I feel like you should have known when that joke died, but you just kept going, huh? Guess we'll just start it from here. Hey guys, it's Chris.
Hi.
So, was there really little boxes that popped up?
Hey, what's it? Dude, I swear to God, you went outside and three black boxes popped up right in my screen,
As
and
we
it
were
was
talking about like
yes,
harp and
yes.
shit.
And it was like Windows 32, and it was for a second, ju ju ju, and then it went away.
That is pretty wacky timing, man.
Oh yeah, maybe harp's real.
Power goes out. My window just explodes, mister. Jumps out, flashbang comes in.
How cool would that be for a podcast? It'd be the last one we ever had, but it'd be some pretty awesome footage.
I'd be pissed that we weren't live streaming. Like one or two people just happened to be like taking a shit at work and just fucking numb-legged watching us get raided.
I love that you said numb leg. Like, how long you gotta be on the shitter to get numb legs?
Dude, when I was working at a car dealership, I worked so many fucking hours, and then I'd get home and I would like barely get any good sleep because I would drink or whatever. And I would get to work and be able to power through a little bit, but eventually I was like, alright, I need to take a break, and they really frown upon breaks, but you're around a bunch of gluttons. So being in the bathroom for a long time, nobody really bats an eyelash, you know? So you just go in there, and we had like the stall that has a rail, right? I'd like put my jacket or my sweater or whatever and kind of lean up on it and put Superbad on my phone and rest it. And just sit there and take little cat naps. Cool guy club.
What do you think the restrooms looked like in the Navy with those hours and what you're doing?
Sleeping rooms?
Periodically, yeah, people taking their breaks on the shitter
Yeah.
all the time. It's a good place for a break.
My buddy was saying that people would do drugs when he worked at a construction yard. They would do drugs in like the porta potty. I was
Oh,
like,
nice.
like doing drugs in a porta potty. Like most drugs you have to inhale in some way or pierce your skin. So like, yeah, you just smoking up them drugs with all the poo fumes, and it's hot. It's Arizona, so like middle of the summer.
Sounds sexy.
Ugh. This is how you get people reeled in for a podcast.
Yeah, talking about porta potties. I was gonna tell a story about the toilets on the ship again.
You could be at
I think
work
it's
right now, you
riveting.
know, doing like cleaning dishes off, listening to this podcast, and hear us talking about doing drugs in the bathroom and get a visceral like out of it, you know, like a out of it while we're
Yeah,
talking
if
about it.
if if
We
we could
could have just touched
induce,
your life. Just saying.
I loved
Contraception.
I love touching other people's lives.
We are basically life touchers. I feel like that should be our first search shirt. Life toucher.
What would the logo look like? Like a big finger and like a
Just
silhouette of
a
someone.
huge hand touching a small silhouette. Yeah. Just touching.
Life touchers. That's what we could call our followers. Hey, all you life touchers out there.
Uh, I think they should be abnormally high power producing bottoms. Comment down below if you think that should be it.
That's like like the
Otherwise,
Dragon Ball.
comment whatever crap he just said that probably sucked. And I
You know,
forgot
like
already because it's not good.
thanks, man. I appreciate it when you receive my ideas and you just shit on them. It's my favorite part of the
It
podcast,
was
actually.
my idea. I was like, we're
I
actually
was
just life
thinking,
touchers.
like those Dragon Ball Z like power, like over 9,000
Mm-hmm,
sensor
mm-hmm,
things. I was thinking
mm-hmm,
that,
mm-hmm.
but like we'll have them for power bottoms. So like you encounter a power bottom, abnormally high power bottom.
uh,
I'm glad you showed me that Always Sunny clip where you got that from.
yeah. No, it's hilarious, man. They do some
Yeah.
of the funniest stuff. That night I ended up putting it on and just watching like episode after episode while I was going to sleep. It's just the way that they broke it down is so kind of perfect, where they just want to be the worst possible people.
Yeah, they're horrible human beings.
Yeah, and to each other, and then they like pair them up individually. But then they've got outside characters that evolve over time. So like Cricket is a guy who they had known their whole lives and always had a crush on the girl in the group. And over time he's developed into like a full-blown crackhead. Like in the when he first gets introduced, he had become a priest and he's like helping people and working in the church, and by where they are now, he's like been in multiple bum fights and like been a full-blown crackhead and had both of his kneecaps broken because of them and all this crazy stuff. Bacon. That's right, you glutton. You wake up and you hear bacon, you big fatty.
Hey, who's the group? Who's the group of the people on that show that live in the trailer? Like they're like Hicks or hillbilly kind of
You make fun of
family.
me like that, I don't really want to tell you anymore.
Oh man, I was just
The
trying to make a joke.
O'Poils.
I just want to be funny. I just want to be funny. I
It's like the
just want...
O'Poils?
Yeah.
Oh, something.
We used to watch it on the ship. Constantly be playing in the
God,
lounge.
rubbing it in
Just
again.
talk
We
about the
did
shit.
it.
Keep
You were in
talking
the
about.
Navy. We should all salute you every time we see you. Left hand every time when you salute. We know.
No, but it's okay. You know why everyone else salutes like this?
No, you do it like this, right? Like a cross on the other side, but like,
You actually do this.
I like that. I like
But no,
that.
seriously, do you know why we salute like this and everyone else salutes like this? Or at least what they tell you?
Why?
Because if
You're
you've
keeping.
lost a...
Good morning. That's hot.
Well, they tell you that if somebody lost a war, they salute like that.
Mm.
Kind of sounds silly, honestly, but I guess I could see it being true.
I thought everybody saluted like that.
No, you'll see
And
a
I
lot
know
of
it's the right hand,
ships.
by the way.
No, you don't. Don't try to cover that up. It's okay. Not everybody knows everything, Chris.
Hmm. Hmm. Have you met me?
You're right. You're like Megamind, like that blue character with the giant
If I don't
head.
know, I have an internal Googler. Googler is what I call
Hey,
it.
when you
Googler.
put on when you put on your skin suit this morning, did it feel a little tight or
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
no? It fit pretty well.
No, I was actually on the lower end of my weight today, so
Oh, it's a little
fit
loose.
fit just right, you know. A little
Okay.
slack
I
on the
had
sides and in the middle, but
I had a couple alterations done to mine, and it's kind of fitting a little weird. So I was just
I was
curious how
gonna
yours.
ask. It looks like you got your
Yeah,
neck pinned a little better.
yeah, I did. I had them kind of take a couple, centimeters of skin off the back.
What about your tongue cap? Is that?
I got it elongated because I wanted to be
Oh
able to do
wow, that
this.
looks so normal and real. Yeah, I
Like
can't do
I
that.
go to parties. I go to parties and people are telling stories and doing cool tricks, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I go,
That is truly amazing.
yeah, I normally get some going.
I'm
Pretty.
telling you, whoever the person is that's monitoring our video chat right now, like they're so lucky, bro. This is the best content you could possibly
You
ask for.
can you imagine though, like they got tipped off from somebody, and they're like, dude, I'm telling you, you need to listen to these guys, and then the first 20 minutes, this is what they get.
I mean, if they do use it to avert terrorism in way, like in some way, I'm okay with it, but it does scare you to think about the real implications of that.
The real implications if somebody was listening.
Yeah, like if you were
That means that
talking about,
they
like if they were doing something bad in a high up place and you talk about it and it triggers an alarm and then they're watching you when it's like okay, I guess. I mean,
do you
I'm
think
just
it works
talking
like
about
that?
wanting to affect change. I'm sure it does on some level. I mean, if you had the power to know certain things,
Well,
people would know.
do you think that there are certain keyword sentences
Yes, absolutely.
and then it's just like they say that there's privacy laws, but really when these key phrases pop up, they just go and they listen or they look at it.
No,
Yeah, no.
no. Are you serious? I'm scared doing this. Like on some level, because we get into some pretty heated conversation sometimes, and it's
Yeah, and
like,
we talk about deregulation and we talk
and
about
very frankly, so no, I mean honestly, I if I was to have to say what I truly believe is that yeah, of course things are getting monitored. Of course they are. Something pops up on your screen when we say a couple of key things, like that's a little weird, man. That's a little weird. And we are communicating via an odd communication system. So I don't know, man. Like,
you know when you contact, like, let's say Verizon, and Verizon is your internet provider, and they're able to take control of your screen and like solve
mhm.
your issue for you. That's the same thing that pops up.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's like an executable file. So that means that some type of program started running on your computer. But the thing being that you did just restart your computer as well. So there could have still been background applications that were opening.
But I've never seen it before any other time I've restarted my computer.
Yeah. Well, and the
Unless,
timing.
yeah.
I'm not really like, I don't know. Your hands are tied on the matter, right? What are you going to do about it? If we want to use this medium, it's regulated in certain ways. So, is there some type of deep down fear that if we were to say something too extreme, that it could be like detrimental to us? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Like, it's
I don't
not.
know. I'm not really worried about it, but
I'm just saying if we got, a real platform going, right?
yeah, I mean
And then we said
they
something that was
deplatform
like,
people.
psh, yeah, but it could be worse if you're small.
What's the Yeah, because they could wipe you out without anybody knowing about it.
Yeah.
Who's the guy that got deplatformed
Alex
recently?
Jones.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me that was all just a setup and that he actually works for the powers that be, and
I don't know.
that was, I mean, you don't know. I'm just bringing it up. It was an interesting thing for them to bring up. I was like,
I don't do too much digging into conspiracy theories because it puts you down a really weird rabbit hole, and you start to notice that in a lot of those videos they're exploiting people's fear. And when you know how to exploit your own fear to propel you in life in general, you start to notice the ways that other people try and use that to get your fascination. Um,
basically the media, what they do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But when I hear a lot of conspiracies, I just don't understand what the means to an end is for a lot of them, you know?
Well, that's the thing. When somebody, like, let's say you and I are talking about a conspiracy, and you can kind of feel the motivation behind the belief or the conversation, and you're like, oh well, he's just discussing this because it's like, okay, well, let's try to get to the truth of this, and maybe it's interesting. And then some people tell you about a conspiracy, and you can feel like you can tell that, like, they want to believe this, like they turn themselves into this belief, and it's not logical or rational anymore, it's fanatical. And at that point it's like, well, I don't want to talk about this with you because it's like you said, what's the end game here? What's the rationale? Like, what? Okay, so now what do we do?
Yeah,
That's true. Now what do we do? It's the same idea to me as being paranoid that something's going to happen. Like, okay, accept that it's a possibility and then move on, but don't live in that space. What is that going to matter? Like, if that thing did happen, you're going to be paranoid. I'd rather know that thing could happen, be happy anyways, and then if it happens, okay, well, I'm happy when I leave this planet instead of
yeah.
being.
Instead of being what?
Paranoid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how I feel about any situation that's rough.
Yeah,
Just
and
small,
we
big,
can
whatever.
we can sit here and we can dwell on the things we talk about of the school system being messed up and speciesism and the corruption and everything, and we can let that make us unhappy people because we feel like it's a system set up for our failure and not being happy, or we can choose to be happy and do the things that make us happy while accepting certain truths and do what we can to affect that. It's not worth your unhappiness, you know?
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, and it's hard not to be like super unhappy about it when you don't know how to go about taking an effect. Just not being well versed enough to be like, okay, how can I go out and make a difference about these types of things? Maybe you have a small social circle and you need something more like this, like where you go and you find other people that are talking about similar things that you're talking about, and you start participating in the comments and, go on Reddit and whatever, find them. Although most comments are just people being
Trolls.
assholes. Yeah.
Yeah,
But whatever.
speaking of comments to the listener, you want to read some hilarious shit. The comments of Joe Rogan and Brandon Schaub's podcast are the funniest thing I've ever seen. Chris turned me on to it, and oh man, it's right when you said comments, my brain just started
Yep.
laughing.
Or
That
any live stream, man. That's
I'm
the
sure it's
funniest.
yeah.
Because when you're watching a live stream, like the people remain completely serious and they're not really looking at the comments as they go through for the most part, unless that's like what they do. Uh, so
And there's
yeah,
just this troll fest going on in their their
unless they
feed.
have moderators in the chat. So like if we were doing a live chat, we could have somebody that's in the chat feed and like flags potential things, so there'll be like a 10-second lag, just like how they censor TV, like live TV.
Oh,
There's like a lag to it.
and that's their job.
Yeah.
I noticed so when I study or when I read something, I listen to classical music, and you know how they have those classical channels that are live. Dude,
You're
there's
so
a
cool, dude. You're basically like the equivalent to me of a guy who has like financial stability, goes to the coffee shop every day at the same time because he gets to take an hour and a half break from work, and he's got like his brown hat and like a corduroy jacket, but like a light corduroy, right?
it's
And
my
then
life.
you just sit there and you smoke your little tobacco pipe and read books right
I
by
actually
the
smoke.
ocean.
I smoke cloves.
Oh, cloves.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, that changes the whole dynamic. Now you have a mohawk, right? And sleeve tattoos that you bought online that you just slip on. So you have like 6 sleeve tattoos, right? But they don't match your skin color so that you don't feel like too much of a poser. So like people know that they're not real, but you just like them.
What does that say about you? You're wearing the fake sleeve, purposely having the skin color different?
You know how to party, bro. Like
Yeah,
you want to
that's
pick
the
up
part.
chicks, but also let them know you're honest.
Yeah, yeah, this is what I want to portray, but it's not real.
Yeah. We should we should discuss a certain ad idea that I have right now, or we could let people watch us discuss an ad idea and see how that breaks down.
I would love to.
So, like stuff to just like write on your skin and like give yourself tattoos that just is semi-toxic, right? Like it's very much permanent and it's sloppy and hard to use. So it's kind of just like a little mop that you try and use on your arm. Maybe? I don't know.
Some permanent skin ink.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can just tattoo yourself at home, you
That's
know?
that's man. That's the marker that you want to hide from your kids.
Mhm.
Coming home one day, permanent skin ink.
Yeah.
We could make it funny.
Trying to think of other stuff. I had like one other idea. Now I can't think of it. It was
I know
pretty funny.
I had my list that I wrote down that other time.
I liked the like the anti medication ads. I thought those were good ideas.
What about invisible socks?
Invisible socks doesn't help with the smell at all, and they don't keep you warm at all.
But they're there, we
Yeah,
promise.
yeah. You
You
have
open
to
up the
use your imagination slightly.
yes, and you have to open up the package and act like you're taking socks off and putting them on. We promise they're there. You just can't see them or feel them. That's a breadwinner right there. Or
On the
what
plus
about
side, though, I'll tell you what, Michael. I'll tell you what I love about this product. When you
yes?
buy one box of invisible socks, $180, you're never going to have to buy socks again. You can't see them. You don't know when you run out. You can't feel them in your fingertips, right? So you just never buy socks again. You have infinite invisible ones.
You're saying for $180, I never have to buy socks again. Wow, it's magnificent.
And you
Would
can
take my
make that in 360 small payments of 50 cents.
take my money now.
I'm telling you.
Take how much? What's the interest on the payments?
780%.
Seven. That's reasonable. Very
That's
reasonable.
that's if you have, like a 750 credit score.
750.
Yeah.
So what if you have like a 520?
It goes down actually because we know you need it more.
Oh yeah, you probably
Yeah,
need more socks. I
yeah.
think your needing of socks is probably based off your credit score. The lower it gets, the more you need socks.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. What about being sponsored by a bad advice? Like a bad advice hotline?
You ever need somebody to tell you just the absolute worst thing that you could do? You tired of making good decisions?
Are you
I could
actively
see it.
trying to self-destruct your life?
Yeah. Or are you? Yeah, I mean, you could play it that way, but then you could play it the other way.
I like that one. Doors that don't open.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just fake doors, you know? You ever wanted a door in your house that leads nowhere? It'll get you an extra 2.5 seconds at least in a robbery. This is really for safety, folks. Okay? You can think of a reason to sell anything, isn't it crazy?
That's actually a genius idea. Like, what if the entire outside of your house was doors? Someone would have to guess right on like the first two or three to
Just
rob your
case the joint,
house.
you know?
Yeah, just yeah,
Door wallpaper. I mean, that's actually kind of cool.
it's not a bad idea. Or it'd also be hilarious to have friends over and they go and they try to go into the place.
I'm gonna, like, when you go to pick up Logan, I'm just gonna paint something really terrible on your wall.
When when we live in the house together.
Yeah. When it's like ours and we can do whatever we want to it. That's
Oh,
gonna be
I
the
didn't
way that
think,
I'm gonna prank
dude.
you. I'm gonna like move your bed away from wherever you situate it so that it's right behind. So every time you go to bed, you know that if somebody comes in, it's you and then whatever's painted back there. Unless you repaint it. But I'll make sure that you're gonna be busy for a while afterwards.
What are you gonna paint? A giant dick?
Dude, I got a while to think
Yeah.
about it, so
That's a whole nother dynamic I didn't think about when we were searching houses. We'll be able to prank each other. That will be fun.
we could do water pranks on the carpet. It's our carpet.
I was thinking that I would like to be able to have time to paint the entire inside if I were to move into a house.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We could get like a
Get good
mural.
at it.
Yeah, get a mural of like you and I naked on a tiger, like jumping over the earth or
We'll
something.
paint it ourselves, and we'll just use each other as, the point of reference.
You lagged out right there. What'd you say?
I said we'll just do it ourselves, and we'll just use
Yeah.
each other as point of reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knows the curves of your body like me. I used to live in these really crappy apartments,
Did
and
they look? Did they look like this, or
no,
like this,
they
or
had
like
flat
this,
tops actually.
like
The,
this?
like this.
All right. Cool.
Okay. And there was windows, okay? And then
Okay.
there was like sidewalks and there was upper walkways and there was walls and doors, doorknobs,
Like,
railings.
did did they? How did they open like this? Or
You just punched them really hard. It was a
mm,
button, but it was hard to push.
that's a pretty cool door.
Yeah, it was tough if you were anemic, though. It kind of made you
Yeah.
wonder, like, who are they marketing these to? Just burly people?
Are those people from anemia? Is that what they was?
So, I lived in these apartments, and
Yeah.
my buddy was telling me that he was living in this apartment with another guy previous to that, and the guy didn't come out of his room for like 3, 4 days at one point, and he had brought in a shitload of beer. And like, dude was at work, coming home and whatever, taking care of his kids and all this stuff. The guy just up and disappears, right? So after like a week, something like that, he decides that he's gonna go in there because he talked to the guy, and the guy's like, "Yeah, I moved out, man. I don't know what to tell you about all my stuff." He goes in there. There's like 30 bottles filled with urine, like beer bottles, just sitting everywhere. And he's like, "Dude, it was like, how am I supposed to even get around these things and not knock them over?" Kind of deal. On carpet, by the way.
What a nice roommate, man. Now he has to dispose of.
I mean, that's a guy you make sure is somewhere in the groomsmen at your wedding. Somewhere.
That's the guy you sign a 4-year lease with. Like, obviously.
I feel like you co-sign every loan for that guy for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I feel like I buy 3 cars in my name, and he tells me he's going to pay for them, and I trust him that he's going to pay for them. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Co-sign a credit card, you know?
Yeah. Take out $1 million business loan, give him all the money. I'll see it back.
I'm telling you.
What the hell, though? You can imagine having a roommate that just up and leaves? Was he on the? He was on the lease.
Oh yeah. Well, this was like a trash hole apartment complex, man. It was bad. Um, I was renting from a guy who purchased the actual unit, so like my unit was upgraded and stuff, which was cool. And when I went there and looked at it, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty nice," and didn't really fish around enough or like look at the people that were around or you know. And I was only month to month, but bad credit. What are you gonna do? So, it was a pretty bad time. But that's also when I quit drinking. So it was like watching the deterioration of all these people around me and being like, well, I was an addict as well. I just wasn't an addict to like illicit drugs like they were. Um, yeah, it kind of showed me the opposite of what I wanted to be and where I wanted to be, and it was a good low, I guess.
It's good to have those examples.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we take lows sometimes to get to. I guess that kind of makes sense, right?
What?
That a low will take you to a high.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good
Yeah.
point of reference. You remember all those shitty times, and
What do you think? I wonder, with the contrast of that, what do you think it would feel like? I mean, everyone has lows in some sense, but just the difference if you've always kind of been on a high as far as productivity wise, like job wise, success wise. I think that
What, and then to fail at something or not have something work out, you mean? Or
no,
just in
just to
general,
still
like
be.
everything's just always going good?
Yeah, I just mean like let's say you were in high school, you had perfect grades, and then your life's fine. You have the girlfriend, you marry the girlfriend, you go to college, you got perfect grades, you get the job, your relationship with your wife is good and everything. Like being a person that has that contrast of life not going that way, I wonder how that feels. Or like if you figure out a story at that point about people who have hit lows, what your thought of that is, or you know,
I think that if you've experienced turmoil, you probably just feel marginally better because, like, the potential of never experiencing terrible circumstances wouldn't prepare you at all. It'd be like a fighter going in for their first fight versus their 50th fight. Like, once you eventually hit that turmoil, you're gonna get more and more experienced at dealing with it.
yeah, it's better to hit it earlier on than
Yeah.
have 30 years of prosperity and then something happens to you. You're probably going to take it a whole lot harder.
Well, and
Or
then
maybe
comparatively, it's
not.
the worst thing that's ever happened to you versus, if I'm 40, 50 years old and I end up flat broke, not a dime to my name, living out of a car, it's like, psh, been here, bitch. This is why I keeps a
Bitch.
gym membership, Like, so I can go shower at the gym and find a job and do this and do that and whatever. Like, I know what to do, man. I've been at the lowest lows, and even in it, I'm still just sitting there like, there's things to be appreciated. Well, especially where I was, because you were there when that snowstorm was happening in Oregon. That was crazy. That was crazy. I was literally just parking in front of the gym that I was a member of, and like, thank God I had a car. I would just park out front, and it's me and my dog, just in the back seat of the car, and I had it somehow I would make the air conditioning just right to where it would fog up all the windows so that people wouldn't see us in there, and it would just stay like that all night. It'd kind of like frost over, and we just keep each other warm in the back, just chilling, watching videos on my phone, whatever. And I was able to find a job where it was just kind of knocking doors and selling like a air purifier product, and I was able to just like bring him with. I'd go up the block, come back, take him out, and I'd walk the dog back up and down the block, and then I'd go to the next block and wham bam over and over.
I remember that job you have. It's like a prime example of being all motivated, all ready, all dedicated to being successful, and the person who owned the company can not be the greatest dude, or at least I think that's what the situation was,
Well,
wasn't it?
I
Like you had all the you were ready to kill it.
yeah, I understand his hesitance, but then there were other things that showed me signs that were like, oh, because I was so amped up all the time that I wasn't even drinking caffeine, dude. It was crazy.
Yeah, you overlooked the small stuff because you were just so.
No, no, nothing like that. Like, I was so
Uh,
gung ho about it because when you gave me a product that I could stand behind and not feel bad about like showing to people, because who knows about air purifiers that you can have running in your house that you can use to like vacuum and stuff, and it just sucks stuff into the water and it's not coming out. Like, you suck dust into water as opposed to a filter, just like a regular mesh filter. It's obviously going to be better because it's going to get stuck in the water, and then you just dump out the dirty water. It was a cool thing. I was excited about it, and I was working out every day, and I'm, getting just a cleaner diet, and I was doing really well. So the owner thought that because I was so gung ho that I was going to fail. So he didn't give me appointments, which was like the number one thing. And then I ended up like asking you if you wanted to buy one, and I could just like pay you back from the commission that I got and try and use that money. And I'm like, oh man, because the promise of it was that when they got appointments to come and sell one, that you would be handed them. And he handed them to these people that I'm like, bro, like, you weren't there. The owner wasn't there watching us get trained at all. Like I went out with the trainer and he had a beer. I didn't, I mean, I still didn't drink at that point. We went out, had a beer, and I ended up just like chilling in the parking lot of the bar with my dog for, whatever amount of time. And he was telling me all these ins and outs. And then I didn't get a single appointment for like a week. I was out there knocking doors, living out of the car. Just enough money to like keep gas in the car basically. And eat like dollar menu crap. I had a big ass bag of food for my dog though. So
I remember. Yeah, I remember the bag you had.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
huge. So I had some foresight. But that was clutch having that car. Because if I hadn't, that would have been a pretty rough situation. Well, more rough situation. So much dog hair in it too when I had to return it.
Yeah. Somebody had fun cleaning that. But I mean, it's just
Oh, dude, you were there with me. I cleaned it at your house, your
you
parents'
cleaned it
house.
up. I don't remember that part.
Yeah, dude, you were there. Oh, that's
I remember
weird. The
us.
light like just recalibrated on my thing.
I remember us walking in the snow. Remember that? I mean, that was like probably no, because we were talking a lot when I was in San Diego back before.
Mhm.
But no, I mean, it's just unfortunate when you're that motivated and ready to do something, and then it comes crashing down, and it's not really necessarily something that was your fault or what you did. I mean, much like having an alcoholic boss, there's a lot of top down things that take place.
Yeah. I mean,
Bad.
I would take partial fault for sure though. I mean, I was living with family members that I didn't know, and like yeah, I don't know. I mean, I trusted the wrong people to end up in the whole situation that I was even in, where if I had done everything myself, I would have saved myself quite a bit of money and only relied on me to make sure that things happened properly. So, wouldn't have stepped on my own toes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it wouldn't be good to put all the responsibility on somebody else, anyways.
No, no, especially when you don't know them well. So,
Yeah, you tend not to learn from something if you advert all of it. If you think about it from the context of what could I have done better, then you're going to take lessons out of it no
yeah,
matter what.
I got time, you know? I I used to resent when people would do things that I found to be shitty, but then there was always this part of me that just kind of understood and was like, it is what it is. Like, people make decisions based off of how they feel, and I don't have to associate with them. It's not,
Yeah, and why waste the energy on feeling super wronged and
yeah,
feeling spiteful or revengeful or something like that. Take the signs when they come to you and learn from it and move on, and you can get a better idea of the feelings you get from certain types of people that are probably more prone to doing something like that. I mean, even then, you're going to think that some people you can trust or have your back, and they won't. But
yeah, yeah. I think not drinking also really starts to make a huge impact on the people that are around you that you associate with because they have no out for their behavior. So like if you or I was to hook up with the other one's spouse or something like that, it's like, come on, like you could have at least had almost an excuse to still be friends if we were drinking or something, but no, nah,
yeah, alcohol definitely gives you excuses. Yeah, and then you're like, oh, they were drunk, or which isn't a good excuse at
it's
all.
like,
But
okay. I just try not to hold resentment for things because I think that that's a powerful thing that can affect you in so many ways. Like, I always use this for instance. There was a girl that I was with that loved the Beatles and we ended on really bad terms. And she was all about the Beatles. Like, I bought her these Beatles posters and she had all this memorabilia and stuff. And listened to them all the time. And when we broke up, I would listen to the Beatles and I never thought about it at all. And then I realized one day when I was like rocking out, it was like, oh, I bet a lot of people let this type of thing get ruined by thinking about other people. The person that taught me how to more technically drive stick shift, which is something that I cherish being able to do, and it's the only way I feel like driving is even fun anymore. Um, he ended up hooking up with a girl that I was extremely seriously engaged with. Like, okay, like that could be pretty uncomfortable when you're driving a 5 speed around one day and you're just like, oh man,
You think
this guy
about,
taught me how
yeah,
to double clutch or whatever. Like, I don't know. I feel like that could be really dangerous to be like still mad about stuff. But there are
yeah,
things that I do still have resentments for that come up completely randomly. Like I'll be showering and just be like, God, I should have punched that guy that one time, you know? Well, yeah, it is what it is. It's too late now. So,
yeah. I try to let go of resentment as much as I can. It's a really, really negative thing to hold on to. And like you said, if when it's coming up randomly throughout your day, it's almost throwing you off of your momentum. I mean, but it makes me think when you say that we all have, like when you were in love for the first time or the second time, and you have songs that you associate with the relationship or you listen to with the person, and that song comes on, you're like, I can't listen to that. Next song. Like, yeah, I mean, that doesn't happen anymore really because of letting go of resentment. But I mean, I
yeah,
can
yeah.
relate to that.
Just letting today be ruined because of yesterday is tough at this point. Because I'm just like, man, all I can do is just keep moving. Just go forward. Do whatever I can do to feel better than however I feel. So even when something like that does happen, it's more of a like click into that other zone. Like earlier today, I just didn't feel good. You know, I was driving and I was just like, man, I'm gonna get back kind of late. You know, you and I haven't really been chatting much, and that's usually kind of a normal thing now. And I was just like, man, I'm feeling weird for some reason. And I'm not working, and I got kind of used to having to show up there every day. So I don't know, but I just kept doing everything that I thought that I should do to have a good day. You know, go pick up some tuna, get down here, pick up my dog, play with him a bunch, take him down to the park, come back up here, have a conversation with somebody, and, you know, do all the things that you have to do. And then by the time I'm sitting down to hit the record button with you, I'm like, feeling alright, you know?
Yeah, I would say it's a choice. Honestly, like how I used to operate is feelings would arise or emotions would arise, and I would let them get to me. I would try to fight them, and my mind would go, "Oh, that's how today's going to be. You're going to have this kind of day. It's going to stop your momentum." And I could get to a certain point in emotional maturity or a certain point of understanding your feelings or just your mindset in general that you just refuse to accept that anymore. Like you said, you start feeling those things and you accept it and you move on. You go, okay, what else? What can I do to positively affect this day? What can I do to not let this define what this day is? I didn't used to do that at all.
Yeah.
I used to have no resolve when it came to that. Lay in my bed all day when those feelings came on, or go and do something detrimental, or drink. Right?
Well,
But
drinking is the easiest thing to do, because that ultimately, what I figured out was that it just you couldn't feel bad if you were me. I mean, obviously, a lot of people have trouble drinking and not getting emotional, but I was the opposite, where I was like, I could feel the worst I've ever felt. Like, literally, put me out on the street with, you know, no shirt, no shoes, and like pants with no belt, you know, put me in the worst predicament, but give me a bottle of whiskey in my hand, and I'd be like, thank God I got this whiskey. Like, we'll figure it out, you know? And that's bad. When you
that's
know that,
how
like, you're not going to feel bad at your absolute worst because of something,
that's addiction. That's addiction
that's
right there.
crazy. So I tell
Like
you, I bought every single bottle of sake from, like, the Albertsons across the street from my house. Every single bottle.
You mean like all at one time?
In like 2 days. I just kept going back and buying more of them. And then I had
Wow.
this idea that we would go somewhere, like to an alley or something, and I'd go to like a Goodwill and buy a bowling ball and put all of them at the end of the alley and just like whoosh, take them out.
That actually sounds like fun.
Yeah, I mean, it
What
sounded like
a
fun.
what a drunk idea.
Dude, and then I was drunk for like 4 days. And then I found out, like, looking at Facebook one day, that this kid who ended up, committing suicide, who was like one of my absolute closest friends growing up. Like, he kind of, when I moved, like, took your place, but we were older. We did a lot of. Actually, if you took what you and I did and put it into like the 12 to 17, 18, 19, that's that's about
It's what
it.
a what it would
Yeah.
have evolved
Ruckus.
into. Yes,
Ruckus.
rebellious.
He, I found out it was the day that, like, the anniversary of when he had died. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'll drink a can of high gravity, Old English, some disgusting malt liquor. So I go down and I bought two, and I go home and I drink them. I ended up buying every single Old English because they had like the high gravity 800 and then they had the regular Old English over again probably like a 2 day period. I just bought all of it and drank it all in like 3 days and then went back and they were out and I was like, oh man, I can't believe I just did that. And I was coming back for more. Like, that's next level, bro.
It's such a nasty form of alcohol.
Ah.
It was always such a belligerent drunk. Like that's the drunk. I remember we had the great idea one of the times I came back from the Navy to have a 40 party. We're like, yeah, let's get 40s, which is a horrible idea. And that night, a buddy and mine decided to like we wanted to go to 7-Eleven, but instead of walking the streets to go to 7-Eleven, we decided it was a good idea to hop backyards from where we were at to the 7-Eleven. So we're going up and over people's backyards, which is retarded. There
People's
could have been
kids sleeping right on the other
yeah,
side of the wall.
or there could have been like a pit bull in one of those backyards or something like that. We ended up getting to the 7-Eleven, and there were scooters outside of the 7-Eleven. So obviously we had to get on them and ride the scooters around. My buddy ended up driving over a sewer grate, and he crashed the scooter. His thumb went into the sewer grate, and he broke his thumb.
Oh,
So those are the kind of nights you get when you drink malt
malt
liquor.
liquor.
That's what we started on though. We started on malt liquor,
Oh yeah.
sparks and tilts.
Oh yeah, I remember tilts. We used to beer bong sparks. Yum.
What a bad idea. An
We just
energy
had
beer.
like no concept of how much alcohol was appropriate. We're young, we're in fairly good shape because we probably walk around more than anybody on the planet. Like, I don't know about
We
you,
did,
but when I was young, I didn't slow down with how much I used to walk. When you and I were kids, I kept doing that in Arizona, skateboarding, walking, biking, whatever. And so pretty good shape, and could just go out there, find a guy who needs a buck or two and be like, "Hey man, you want to help me out? I'll help you out." They go in, buy you something. Like, I had 100% record. This is something. I'm not happy about all the drinking I did, but I can't, like we just said, resentment's not going to help. So just have fun with
we're
the memories,
just
right?
yes, because we're better now. It's not like we're still suffering from this.
100% record for going out and finding somebody if I wanted alcohol, right? And I go out with my buddy, and this is like 4 years I've been drinking. I was like 16 or something. And it's one something, 1:30, something like that. And we're just like, man, this is going to be the game ender right here. This is going to end our streak because it's just so late. There's not going to be any homeless people out, you know? So we go out there and we're trying. And for context, 2 o'clock is when you can't buy alcohol anymore.
Yeah, so you're
So
getting
it's like
there.
150. We look at our little cricket phone and we're like, oh no. And I see a guy washing his car. And I was like, bing! Run over there. I'm like, hey man, if you buy us alcohol, we will wash your car right now. So we got to make a snap decision because this dude's got a book to get over there. And I'm like, just get us as much 211. Is that what it was?
Yeah, there's Old
Yeah,
English
like
and
the
211.
super gross one though,
Yeah,
211.
Old English actually tasted somewhat decent. 211 tasted
Yeah,
like you were licking metal.
it was disgusting.
Yes.
So I was like, just get as much of that as you can because we got pretty desperate, right? So he was able to get like smaller cans and get like these 6 racks. So he comes out, bro, he's got 32 cans of this crap, equaling like 16 tall cans, I would imagine, something like that. Comes out, gives it to us. We finish washing his car. We go back home, start drinking these. I get on like seventh or eighth one, dude. No joke. Like couple hours, right? My stomach is just distended because that's what would happen. Like I didn't know how much I should be drinking, so I would drink like 240s and then just be belligerent drunk, right? So I'm just down in these cans because they're smaller. I end up laying, I remember specifically thinking in my head, I'm laying in the backyard with my face down so that I make sure that if I throw up, and I'm like throwing it up, I had like a bag that I was trying to throw up into, but I just like couldn't stay standing. It was terrible, dude. And then that was the first time I ever felt a hangover, and I was that young. Like I used to drink a lot for a long time, right? A long time. I would drink every single day. I'd come home when I was 14, 15 years old and just make sure that nobody could smell me, you know? Like this was a fairly normal thing for me. There was no chance that I was able to
Yeah.
like keep that straight.
You
There was
you
no way.
reeked.
I woke up the next day and was like, I gotta shower twice. I need to use my buddy's extra toothbrush that's laying around somewhere. Like, it was bad, man. It was really bad. Hungover at like 15. Never felt a hangover again after that until I was like 20 something.
There's
I'd feel drunk the next day still, but
you
not like,
probably
ugh.
you were still
Oh
drunk, I
yeah,
would.
absolutely.
I think about two things from that story that makes me think about is we talk about these types of ideas sometimes, like motivation being placed in the wrong put in the wrong place. Like look how motivated you were to getting drunk.
Oh, I know.
Like you went out with the mindset of like I'm finding someone and they're gonna buy me alcohol, and like through that mindset, like you always found someone, and like that motivation. Like imagine if that motivation would have been placed in something else back then, or or
Yep.
that's maybe that's much of the still the motivation you have now to this day, be on the path you're on now. And back then it was just placed somewhere.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's multiple times in my life that I've had the motivation placed in the right place, and I've look at him digging. Wow, man. I make that bed, and you're just like, no, I want to lay
What's
under the
he
covers.
what's he looking for?
I don't know, my jacket's underneath there, but
Smell something good.
I guess. But no, like a defining point in my life was when my uncle had me help redo his backyard, and he showed me just a huge area filled with like river stones, you know, that big, right? And he was like, all right, this is what I need you to do. Take all these stones, put them in a pile. Underneath those, there's going to be a little bit of dirt. Underneath the dirt, there's going to be some like garbage bag material, plastic kind of stuff. I need you to rip all that out. Then I'm going to give you more of that material. You're going to put it back in there, and then you're going to put dirt over it, and then you're going to put all the rocks back. Cool? All right, go ahead and get started. And I was just like, this is impossible. And I've heard other people that have had similar experiences. Like I heard one where somebody built a wall, but I was just really overwhelmed at looking at it, and then went in and was just like feeling defeated. And he said something to the effect of, don't worry about the whole task, just worry about moving a rock, and then another rock, and then another rock, and next thing you know, you're going to be done. It took me a couple days, but I just was fixated on it, and that's what I decided to spend my energy on. So, yeah, I mean, it was just misplaced sort of energy, I guess. I had a priority to go and push this alcohol thing to the limit because I didn't have to think about anything else. It's if you're given the opportunity to where you're smart enough to be able to go through life and not have to worry about responsibilities, but also be able to drink at the same time, that's so easy to fall into. It's the easiest thing in the world. I even got jobs where like I knew that if I was one of the top producers, I could go out and drink at lunch and come back and everything's cool. I showed up to work so hungover one day and I had taken like 5 shots of whiskey before I went. I sit down at my desk and I'm like drinking my cup of coffee. I like spilled coffee and my manager comes over and she's like, "Hey Chris, like you're a little too drunk today. Like you're gonna have to probably go home." And I'm like, "Nah, nah, nah, nah. Watch this. You'll see. Watch this." I'm like barely even awake, man. I ended up setting a record when I was that drunk. My like personal record, almost 30% higher than what I would normally be at lunch. And I was like, "See?" And then I went off at lunch, did like 3 double shots of Patron, came back, and just kept rocking. It was crazy, man. It's just crazy. I modeled my
Yeah.
life after my terrible habits. Like, psycho.
It's interesting how we didn't used to think about the damage at all. Like I remember being so caught up in it that it was just like we prided ourselves on how much we could drink, and you didn't think about what could this be doing to my system, what could be this be doing to my brain, like what is this. It was just like gung ho, drink as much as you can, like
Hmm.
get fucked up. And it also makes me think, did I really not get hungover back then, or was my mindset just so like I'm a beast, like we drink and that's what we do, that it was just
I don't think
easier
I got
to
hungover.
think it's because our bodies were young and able
Yeah,
to recover better.
yeah.
I
Just
mean, I
more
sure.
backed up crap in our systems.
I mean, yeah, it probably has a little bit more to do with it in some sense that if I were to drink now, even the slightest hangover is so far different from how I normally wake up ready to seize the day that I'd be like, oh man, like, I can't do this. Like, which is another motivation not to drink because even the slightest hangover is fucking horrible.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I can't even imagine. Like, I used to be so scared, I guess, and I would sit there and I'd tell myself how badly I needed to stop drinking, and then I was like, but maybe if I just do it on special occasions, right? Maybe if I go, like, what am I supposed to go camping and not drink? Fuck
that would
that. That sounds
that's
like a
isn't that
whack ass camping trip, right? Or go to the beach or go to Disney World or whatever. Like, that sounds crazy to me. Well, do you want to go and be hungover at Disney World? Really, is what it comes down to. Like, or am I gonna have more fun because I went and drank? I mean, I would argue not.
you'd think you would, and in the moment you would feel you were.
Yeah, yeah. But then you're gonna pay for it. Where if I went down there and found some cool stuff to do around Orlando and got some food I never would have eaten somewhere else and, you know, went and rode a bunch of rides and could remember everything and felt good the whole time and got a full night's sleep and woke up the next day and got to do more activities.
Exactly. How much more would you get to do
Yeah.
without having to have recovery time, or without having to waste the time to go and find a drink? Or
Dude,
yeah,
my hangovers were death. They were death hangovers. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't move, couldn't drink enough water. There was no amount of water that was enough. There was times where I just crawled, straight up army crawled on the ground to the tub just to be able to like dump cold water or hot water or whatever, like if I was hot or cold, and I just lay in there for hours, just dying. It's crazy. I can't
and
even, I can't imagine just one of those days now. Like the worst illness that I can, well, not the worst illness I can get because that's way worse, but like the worst flu or headache or whatever is nothing in comparison to what I used to self-induce. To what end? So I could watch Daria and like
Daria.
not pay my electric bill. Dude, I had thousands and thousands of dollars and I would let my freaking electricity get shut off.
Just because you were so out of control that you
Because in
wouldn't.
my mind,
Yeah.
it's Tuesday. In reality, that Tuesday I think it is was 2 weeks ago. Like, I had no concept of time. I didn't have to have a concept of time. I didn't. I didn't have to hold any sort of responsibility or anything. And I mean, I worked and stuff, but my rent was so minimal that I could save up money and just kind of live off of it, and then, you know, save up 4 grand and your rent's only $300 a month. You can live off of that for 3 months without doing shit and just drink all day.
And you had fun doing it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, in the moment. I mean, it helps you. Alcohol helps you to be in the moment, honestly.
yeah, I definitely feel some detriment though. Like there's just certain things that I'm like, man, I wonder if my brain would be a little bit more well functioning. Just a little
It's
bit.
hard. It's
Maybe my
hard. It's
vision wouldn't be
hard
as
not to.
blurry. Times that I would fight somebody or hurt myself. Not like I was never an aggressive drunk. I didn't fight people when I was drinking, but when I would like box my friends or wrestle friends or
Yeah,
whatever,
because
and you hurt
you're not gonna
yourself.
feel injuries or anything because you're
Yeah.
numb. Hey, MTAC listeners, we're gonna take another break for our sponsors. We'll be back in a jiffy.
Hey there, loyal MTAC viewer. Chris and Mike coming at you again today with a brand new sponsor. We're very lucky and very happy to be able to present to you. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mike and I are actually from Oregon. Now, recently we've had to move to a southern state. 2 different states, doesn't matter where they are. We really don't want you guys coming out and finding us because you're probably a little creepy. Okay? So, that being said, what do we miss most? That might be what you're wondering. Well, that's easy. Very easy. Wet socks. Wet socks. You move from a beautiful rainy state like Oregon and you move to a dry climate. It's the one thing, it's always on your mind. Every time you walk somewhere, every time you're going through the store, every time you take your shoes off at night, you're just like, man, you know what I miss? Some wet socks, right? Now, Michael was very lucky. As per usual, he was sent a promotion for this product so that we could actually show it to you guys. Show you what it can do, okay? Now, Michael's going to actually open a fresh package. He's going to show you the socks and give you a little bit of an idea what it is that you'll be looking at. Maybe even try it on for you guys. Do a little modeling. So, Michael, go ahead. Show them what you can do.
Hey guys, Michael here. As previously stated, I have been overnighted a package of these wet socks. I'm very excited to show them to you. For comparison, I would like to show you what a dry sock looks like. You can see dry, probably keeps your feet warm, probably comfortable. Get this shit out of here, right? Fresh out the package.
Wow.
Wet sock. Now I had this thing on the other day when I was out with my son. About 6 hours. I came home, I took my shoe off, and
Oh, man, I miss that.
the
That little
smell.
gag,
I'm gonna put it on for you. If you want to explain a little bit more about it, I'm gonna put it
Absolutely.
on.
Absolutely. To go a little further for you guys, I mean, just imagine with me, right? You're taking your kids for a walk, you're going down to the park, right? What are you missing? You're missing that squish, 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 and then over time you feel the pruning just get worse and worse and worse, and then you start to get that deep pain that we all know and love so much, just deep. It feels like it's going into your muscles and just hurting them, just, you know what I'm saying? And then, as he was saying, when you take them off, who doesn't miss that smell? You take off your shoes at night and you just take a deep gag, That's how I know that my day is over, is when I take off my socks and shoes and I get that, you know what I'm saying? So let's see it. It looks like Michael's got it on now. So let's go ahead and take a look. As you can see, looks like a totally normal sock. Little does anybody realize, that thing is going to stay wet forever. I would do this myself. I would just do it myself, I would just get them wet. But guess what? An hour later, it's starting to dry off, and it gets all hard. And I'm looking for wet socks. I'm not looking for crusty, dry, was wet all day, now it's ready to be, taken off. And I just, I don't know, guys. I don't know anywhere else you could find a product this beautiful that's going to give you the nostalgia from living in the Pacific Northwest like this. Now, again, can't stress enough. wetsocks.na.eu.com.net// Go there, use the code MTAC. Okay, MTAC. More than a conversation. You know us, you love us, you trust us. Link above. Check it out. They've got promo videos. They can show you anything you have. They'll answer any questions they've got for you. Okay? Now, when you see some of the side effects, you might not be very happy about it. No big deal. So what if you're going to lose all your toenails? What do you use your toenails for? Come on. You're just not going to have something to pick at on the weekends, okay? And okay, maybe it fully stops your entire body from going hair, but no more haircuts, no more worrying about stray eyebrows that are getting into your vision, Your nose, completely clear. Completely clear. This goatee, fuck this goatee. That's what I'm saying. Now that's the message from MTAC. We love you guys. Check it out. Wasn't feeling so hot this morning, and I went and donated plasma today too, so a little bit of detriment when you do it the second time for the week. But it's so wonderful that I was worried that I wasn't going to do well today in recording this. Like I had a fear earlier when I was driving that like, oh man, I don't know if I'm feeling up to doing that today. Then I was like, wait. If you feel shitty, you fucking go on there and you talk about feeling shitty and why you feel shitty and what are you going to do today and tomorrow and the very minute to feel better. What are you going to do?
I've felt like that prior to a podcast as well, and I think the interesting part was like why are you any different than any other time or any other day? It's just the way that you're feeling. Like feel like you can't be vulnerable with the negative feelings you're having on a platform like this. And that goes back to what we were talking about too in the previous podcast of that bully. Like there's
Yeah.
that part in your head. There's that part in your head where like you wake up, you might feel a little bit down, and your brain goes to like, you can't do a podcast today because it's not going to be good because you're feeling bad. And it's like, well, you could turn.
I had that thought in my head that was like, well, nothing says you have to do one today. It's only the third episode. It's not like people are sitting there clamoring for another one. There's no like impending pressure except for the pressure you put on yourself. And then you can just release that pressure a little bit by not doing it. But then what's going to happen? That pressure is going to start building up even more. Next thing you know, we're making an excuse about the next one, and then something legitimate happens stopping us from the next one, and then We just haven't done it for a year, and we're sitting there like, man, why haven't I
Whatever
been happy?
happened?
Yeah, I'm just not
Whatever
feeling
happened
great.
to the podcast? And it's crazy how your brain gives you that out.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain goes, you don't need to do it today. Why do it today? Do it today because you said you were going to do it today.
Yep.
And if you don't do it, you start having that backwards momentum, and it doesn't seem like a big deal. But every single choice you make to not do what you said you were going to do makes it easier the next time to not do what you said you were going to do. And that's why it's important to fight through it.
Eloquent AF, dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up?
But yeah, man, it's those little battles, you know, just winning those little ones. Sitting there like, oh, I mean, I did take the dog to the park and run him pretty ragged yesterday, so I'm sure he's pretty tuckered out still. Like, you can catch yourself making excuses like that. And I'm just like, no, he's not. He's a little battery. He slept all night. Now he needs to go and chase stuff around and think there's squirrels in trees and be a puppy.
I'll even have that with my son. I'll be sitting here and I'll feel like I don't want to go out and thing, and my brain will go like, "Oh, it's all right. You took him to the park and you took him to Chuck E. Cheese yesterday. Wait, hold on. Why does that give you an excuse to make his day today not as cool as yesterday?"
Yeah,
And
he doesn't
yeah,
deserve like an hour and a half a day of doing, you know, Logan shit. Like,
yeah. And then you realize that in the 5 minutes it took you to transition from the doubt to the action, it's gone.
yep.
And you're doing it, and it was like that simple. And the not doing it, that's why the thing of like a backward step can erase 10 forward steps,
Well,
because the moment.
I think over time, like it's a degradation process because you let one thing slip, then you let another thing slip, then you let another thing slip. But if you recognize on that first one, like, oh shit, messed up, gotta scurry back, you can make it back. And I think that's kind of what everything in life, like issue-wise, boils down to, is just how long it takes you to bounce back and trying to make the time in between shrink every time from experience and recognition of a bad situation or a bad relationship or a job where you're not going to be happy, and start looking immediately because, you know, even just recently I was working at a place and there was a blatant sign in my face where my manager, I had walked in and they didn't know that I was there, and I heard them talking about how my manager thought that the owner brought me in to try and take her place, right? And when you hear something like that, you need to be like, boom, yeah, red flag. Yeah. Because then what ended up happening? She started complaining to me about things that were just asinine. I mean, things that she had to get up and walk 2 feet to pull a file out to figure out the answer, and she'd sit there and like say these things, and I could hear that she's right next to the owner saying things to try and make me sound bad when I did nothing wrong. It was crazy, dude. And I didn't start immediately looking for another job, so then there's that period where it's like, okay, I got a little bit of money, but I got to make sure that blah, 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 you know?
Yeah, I mean, the first time that my boss drunk called me, which was like 4 days into the job, my brain immediately went,
Red flag.
yeah. But I've had an experience where I had to do something with red flags on the daily for 4 years. So, like you said, you have to teach yourself to recognize these red flags, even with red flags that your own mind has against your own self. It's a learning process. You have to teach yourself this, but that's why it's so unfortunate that if you have 3 children and you get yourself into a bad employment position, you have like you think that you have to stay in that.
Yeah. Well, and it's not an easy transition. Being able to go from, you know, a menial position to trying to get into a better position is tough. And if you don't know how to not live to the end of your means, because I think that a good portion of people, and I won't go so far as to say a majority of people, but most people make peace with the fact that they would rather not educate themselves on what they need for themselves and just go with the easy, cheap thing, and then choose to not recognize that, like, hey, maybe if you didn't buy, a six pack every night, you might be able to save up some money to transition your job that you hate into something else that you like, and you could do that literally by sacrificing like a small thing in your life. And you have to believe that on some level people know that they aren't necessarily being held down as much as they perceive that they are. And the unfortunate issue is that that's an internal perception. So you can't sit there and drive that into somebody and be like, hey man, just, like slow it down, because then there's excuse after excuse that will fly out. Well, man, my job just stresses me out so much that I need to decompress, so I buy this thing that helps me to decompress, or I go do this thing that helps me decompress. But you don't realize that, like, you wouldn't need those extra things if you were to transition your life into a different direction that you actually like, something that you can get behind. And you don't have to be extremely happy about it, but I couldn't imagine going to a place that I despise every day, or being around people that I dislike in a negative situation every single day. No thanks. No thanks. I'm on Craigslist like that, or whatever. Now, I guess nowadays Craigslist is charging people to put ads up for jobs. Yeah, so that's why when I was recently looking for work, I wasn't seeing as much on Craigslist. It used to be the go-to. Like a day you'd have a job, but I was getting nothing, man. And what I was getting was like answering machines a lot. And then I just go onto a regular like company's website. Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. I find a job.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're talking about with the not leaving the negative employment situation out of a self-imposed belief about the situation itself. That's why it's so empowering to me when I hear about stories when people have the dream job or when they make it and they don't like what they're doing. And every single person in their life would probably tell them, "Are you serious? You're going to leave this? You're making all the money you wanted
Oh
to?
yeah,
Are you?" And they look that in the face and they go, "I trust myself enough." Bam, it's over. Like that's so empowering to me, just seeing someone else do that. That
absolutely.
it takes a lot of courage to do something like that. And that's who I'm going to be from now on. I'm never going to stay in something that I know is negative to my mental health or negative to my motivation or being. It's just not an option. It's not worth it. It's not worth any wasted energy. It's not worth any wasted time. I've already wasted so much energy and time. It's just, if I can't directly affect the change that needs to happen for it to be what it needs to be, I'm not gonna waste my breath. Just not.
Yeah,
I can make too much of a change in things that can be changed from what I can do, that it's just not worth it at all.
I agree. I I was able to live a life where I never went to a place I didn't want to be for a long time, you know. Even when I was doing negative things and drinking heavily, like I've just had places where I liked the job I had, I liked where I was living, I liked the people around me. And just when I was at work, I never wanted to be back at home. When I was at home, I didn't necessarily want to be at work. Like everything was just kind of cruising along real smooth. And yeah, man, it was just 'cause if I didn't want to be there, I wasn't there, you know?
You know what the irony of this whole thing is too?
What's that?
The employer that I couldn't escape for 4 years, toughing that out, has put two things in my life that are gonna pay dividends for my future and are amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But then too though, that kind of changes things. If you know there's a time when you can leave and you know if you complete that time you're going to get said things and there's no way you're not going to get said things, that changes it somewhat. It's
Oh,
more of
absolutely.
it's more of staying in something without that, that is the bigger deal.
Well, and you could sit there and you could dwell on what could have been, or you could realize that that's a flip of a coin. What could have been multiple different things. You could have never been put in a position where you had to be strict about things that you were doing every day and watch people that were just like fringing on their existence because they were trying to party too much and failing, and they felt like they couldn't do anything else other than be in the situation that they were in, or, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know. You
No,
probably saw some really interesting psychological cases in where you were at. And I'm sure you made plenty of crazy mistakes. I know, you were promiscuous and whatever, but
hey, what happens in Singapore stays in Singapore, all right?
hey, good thing you didn't say Thailand.
I've never been. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would. Good thing I didn't. Good thing I didn't go. Honestly.
right?
Yeah.
You were a drinker back then too. You probably weren't doing Adam's apple checks at all. It was so cool, bro. This girl only wanted to go butt play. Like, really? Ooh. Ooh. Smelled like adhesive for some reason. I
I
don't know.
mean, I mean, I blacked out in world countries. Like, how dangerous is that?
Yeah.
Even being with people though, like that's a bad idea. We were drinking like fishes, man. Every time you hit a port.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Talk about needing to decompress. Like, what else are you gonna go do for reals? Yeah, I've I've been right on the cusp, man. I didn't know what to do with my life, and I was sitting around just like, man, I had an opportunity to go to college and had it taken away from me, and everything was just kind of spiraling down. And it was the same time you and I were talking all the time, and ironic, you ended up pulling the trigger on it, and I didn't. But it would have been bad if I did, because dude, I went in, took my ASVABs, did my physical, and find out that I can be whatever I want. And they say pick a backup, right? If you want to be this, that's fine, but pick a backup. And I read through the whole thing, all the different positions. And I come in there, and they're like, oh, what did you pick? Like counterintelligence, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, nah, man, cavalry scout. Like, sounds cool, right? You get to go in, you're the first one to go in. You prep everything, you do all the recon and everything like that. It's like that's the number one death rate, period. It's like, well, yeah, man, but if I'm gonna go do something, I want to go and make a difference and like really do something. So I ended up not doing it because, I didn't want to have to pass a drug test.
Yeah, I mean the most interesting part about my story of joining the military is, well, I'll just tell people like certain things in my life weren't going well, and I had friends around me who I had known my whole childhood who had made major mistakes, and it gave me and one of my best friends a giant perspective of like we need to get out of here, and the people that we respected and look up to aren't doing well. And we were drinking a lot at the time, and we had just drank a fifth of Jack Daniels. So it was probably like 15 minutes we had drinking this fifth of Jack Daniels, and this was after everything was going south already. We went on a walk for like an hour and a half, and we did nothing. And I remember coming back to my house, being in my room, just feeling sorry for ourselves. Like, what are we doing? Like, we just drank a whole fifth and walked around and did nothing. Like, we don't have anything going for us. And a Navy Accelerate Your Life commercial came on the TV.
Oh my God, they
Literally,
got you.
there's
Ivanet
a
Miage, dog.
there's a reason those commercials are there. You know, we're already feeling sorry for ourselves, and we're like, that's it. Calling the recruiter tomorrow. We're going to the recruiter office. We don't care if we're hungover. And he ended up going home. Woke up in the morning, hungover, called each other, went down the recruiter's office, and a month later, we're gone. And it's just
Crazy.
like, yeah, yeah. So it's almost like we were led to it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, best decision I ever made. definitely. It's
I could
paying
see that.
dividends.
And if
Yeah.
I had done a different job or whatever, I probably could have done fine. But then that's where it's like the flip of the coin thing. You know, it could have gone extremely bad because I was good at staying on track for 6 months, and then I would just be like, oh sweet, I get to just kick back and decompress and just drink my life away for like 2 months, and then I'll get back to work again. And that's where I don't think it would have worked out well because I would have gotten to a certain point and been like, hey man, chill, like chill. Let's take a day off. I'm feeling a little sick. My belly hurts, you know. Um, or they would tell me to do something. I jokingly said that I didn't want to have to pass a drug test. Um, the reason I didn't do it was because I knew that on some level I was contributing to people that I don't get to decide are good or bad dying, you know?
You
Even
had
if,
that. That's cool to have that you had that foresight even then.
well, like, eh, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen In the Army Now. It's an old Pauly Shore movie. It's really funny, you know, for what it is. But basically, he decides, and this is totally off the point, but he decides that he and his buddy need money to start a business. So they do the same kind of thing, and they join the reserves, and they're like, we'll just be water purification specialists. So even if you're that, you're purifying water for people that are going to go and pull the trigger on somebody that they don't know why they have to. There's no talking, there's no nothing. Like you're contributing to something to where I don't have enough control to where I'm okay with it. And that was my only thing was I'm like, I'm surrendering control to decision making for my life, and it's a crazy thought for me.
That's what I did. I mean, if you really want to be honest about um, something related to what you said, my ship dropped probably 60 bombs on the Middle East because they would keep counting. I'm a bosun mate, so I'm mooring the ship and I'm dropping small boats and I'm doing supply and stuff like that. But without my job, the ship couldn't even operate, and then the aircrafts couldn't even be over there, you know. But yeah, man.
Wait, so they wouldn't come and be like, "Hey, Michael, just so you know, this bomb is gonna hit XYZ building, and we made sure to clear it out. You know, it's only terrorists in there, and yeah, so it's all good. We're good. Is that cool with you?
Yep.
Can we poop? They didn't make sure of that, or they did?
No, they didn't. They wouldn't like put all the people
Oh,
on the
okay,
ship. They
okay,
wouldn't put all of us in a room and like do a slideshow and be like, "All right, what's your vote? Do we do it or no?" Is
yeah.
it? No? No?
And the person who carries out the order, did they make the decision, or does somebody that's not even remotely connected? Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But unlike you, having an high ASVAB score and then coming back and telling you, "Oh, you qualify for all this stuff," and you deciding to do something else. We came back with a high ASVAB score. The recruiter was a chief in a certain job, and he went, "Here's what you want to do." Didn't even there was no like, "Oh, you could be this or this or this or this." He was like, "This is what you guys could do, and you could leave soon." Which we wanted to leave soon, and I don't think the other jobs would have been able to leave soon.
Yeah.
But we weren't even disclosed
What would
as
you
to
have
what we
preferred to
did.
do? There has to be something that you learned of that you would have preferred.
Um, I mean, there's a lot of things. There were electricians mates who you would learn the ins and out of electricity, and you could do something in that field. There was supply, so logistics. I know of people who have gotten out of the Navy and have gotten high-paying jobs doing logistics for the company. I think something interest-wise, I don't know if there was really anything that I experienced on the ship that I would have wanted to do interest-wise. I mean, they had like mass communication specialists where you got to take photographs and edit film and
Hmm.
write articles and stuff like that. Like that's cool. Um, if you're really good, you can be a musician. Like be in the Navy band, and that's what you do for your 4 years.
Oh, that would be rough. Rough times, man.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
That
I
whole thing.
mean, yeah, yeah.
Is
I
that
mean, a
what you're
lot of
talking
people.
about, though?
That is what I'm talking about.
It's my
Those are rates.
favorite part of Cadet Kelly, dog. When she wakes up and she's all, got like the scarf and shit, going hard. Hilary Duff.
But
She doesn't get
but
enough respect. We always talk about all the Disney stars and stuff that went crazy. What'd she do? You know? Probably just
I was a
had some
big Lizzie
kids.
McGuire fan.
That might be where we have to cut it off because I think Tara's here. That'd be funny.
I
No, I liked
was
Lizzie McGuire too, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was
Gordo
she
was my man's. I thought Miranda was way hotter than Lizzie back in the day. And then the popular girl was just gross.
was Lizzie McGuire the same girl in Xenon? Or what was it?
No, that was a different girl.
Okay. I liked those movies too.
I feel like yeah, Xenon the sequel.
Yeah.
And then, well, I forget, Z3 something. Did you watch
I
Mighty
don't know.
Ducks, bro? I found out that Tara hadn't seen Mighty Ducks, so I was like, all right, I'm putting it on while we go to sleep, right? And I go out, and I was living in Denver at the time, so I partook in the flowers of Denver. And I go in, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch Mighty Ducks, bro. And I sit down, and I realize dude gets a freaking like heavy DUI because he's this slick hotshot lawyer that doesn't give a fuck about other people, so he's driving like smashed wasted and then gets this punishment, and he's a fucking asshole to all these little kids, right? Like in the beginning he's very like
Oh, when he yeah.
whatever. Dude, it was way darker than what you thought. I don't know about the second or third one. I haven't rewatched those yet. But, well, the third one, they're just in college. So, but that first one, man, you're just like, man, this dude's not really a very redeemable character from an adult perspective. But when you watch it as a kid, you're just
You're
like,
like,
ooh, knuckle puck, you know?
knuckle puck. Yeah.
Hell yeah.